Well, good morning, fellow humans. I hope everyone is having a lovely, lovely day. There's some noise here, but that's okay. Yeah, I hope everyone's having a lovely day or evening or whatever. If you, whatever the case may be, if you and when you see this. Yeah, not going to spend a lot of time today, but not anywhere near what I did yesterday. Yesterday, it wound up being about an hour. That's not necessarily what I want to do, but it's going to happen because, in all reality, with this particular format, this particular effort, I'm trying to let it be organic, at least as I learn the format, as I learn how to operate this. And so the point is that I'm not as interested necessarily in the form or the SEO or the tweaking or whatever. That's not my purpose. That'll come as it comes or when it comes. So that means that a lot of this work product, a lot of these videos are going to be wildly kind of all over the board when it comes to time and topic. I do have other plans, other thoughts about kind of how to expand. I don't want to use the word brand because that's got some connotations to it that I'm not particularly interested in feeding right now, but I think that this is only, this kind of interaction I think is only part of what I want to explore with these newly emerging types of technology, but also the what am I trying to say? The protocols or the effective use of this technology path to communicate with my fellow humans and various other life forms that may or may not emerge in the coming in the coming years. I've got some fun futurist thoughts regarding that, which I'm sure will come up. Anyway, like I said, yesterday was about an hour long. I don't want to do that today, but I do want to continue forward and to keep moving these goals forward. This particular channel, I think, is going to stay and or morph. There will be different offerings, and that's kind of, I wanted to kind of brush on two different topics this morning. One is to kind of riff off of the technology talk yesterday. Obviously, technology is a big part of my life and the way that I have fed my family, the way that I have interacted with the world, the kind of measuring tool for objectivity. The internet is a slide rule. It is what you do with it, and it's easy to anthropomorphize things when you're looking for a scapegoat. This terrible social media is X. Oh, we're in this situation because of Y. Oh, if only those horseless carriages would have been banned on our streets, life would have been different. It certainly would have, to be clear. But that's kind of literally academic, I guess you could say. Anyway, I wanted to share a little bit about technology. Like I said, like I had referenced earlier, I've had a long relationship with the human-machine interface, with the courting of these two kind of species of consciousness, whatever. I was thinking last night, I had in the last few days, I've had a really fun experience with technology. I'm a spatial computing enthusiast, for lack of a better word. I think that spatial computing as a concept, as a UX paradigm, is really the future, especially considering the general acceptance and acceptability of computational concepts that newer generations are familiar with. When I was a kid, when I was growing up, and even, I mean, hell, as late as the early mid 2000s, there was, a lot of these, a lot of our ruling class, the older folks, the older baby boomers, their parents, a lot of the people that are still in power, that still have political power over our society, political and financial power. Those older generations really intrinsically are limited by their relationship with technologies. It's almost inevitable that when a concept such as personal computing interacts with a group, introductory group, a beta testing group, whatever you want to call it, things, it's not going to be as deep of a relationship as if an individual, a Homo sapien, was familiar with these tools at an early intrinsic age, even pre-language in some cases. That's how we are raising our children these days, with augmented by technology through their lives, and that's going to be the case moving forward. Anyway, the point is that when I was a kid, video games, Atari 2600 was, that was my jam, right? And before that was, I had Pong was a big deal, right? The first kind of video game system that I had was a knockoff Pong console that was broken. The controllers were broken, and my uncle at the time, Uncle Steve, gave it to me basically because from his perspective it was junk, and all it required was just a change of a potentiometer in the controller. I mean, this stuff is very, very crude, and even as a kid, it was, if you were so inclined, you could figure it out. The technology wasn't all that advanced. And that was my first kind of video game, was a knockoff broken Pong machine. And my neighbor had my neighbor at the time had a Atari 2600, and that was yeah. Anyway, point is that this last couple of days I had kind of an interesting experience, and I am not a very big gamer, not like my wife, my lady wife. She is really, in some ways, the proof of what I'm saying, where video games, gaming, that type of storytelling, that type of medium is very important to her, both on a psychological level, but also on a fulfillment level, on an art level. She's very much in that world. And I get teased a lot because I never finish a video game. Well, never is a long thing, but I rarely finish a video game. Usually I experience it, and in the technical aspects, especially of graphical user interface, the tech of rendering, like graphics rendering. A lot of what I gain out of looking or playing new games, especially like AAA games or things like that, is kind of a touch base for me on like, where are the graphics right now? What's the hardware look like? How are they rendering this? What's the UX like? What's the interface between humans and machines like? Are machines being storyteller collaborators, and in what way and how do you use the limitations of the technology, but also how do you use the intrinsic powers of that technology to tell stories, to create experiences? And I generally lose interest in a game or in a game if once I've kind of experienced the technological, let's just say that the experience itself is very important to me, much less the storyline or the entertainment value or whatever. It's very fascinating to me, the progression, because I feel like I am an informed witness when it comes to this. Anyway, the last few days I have had an experience with, I'm an early adopter of spatial computing. I really actually would like to talk about that later. So I'm a first, I have a first generation, first delivery Apple Vision Pro. It's an investment, a significant investment with my company and with me personally. And I am fascinated by how the adoption, like the public experience, the public adoption of this technology is, and like what people, especially reviewers on YouTube that have their own viewpoint. Well, sure, there's limitations associated with this, and yes, I believe I have my own opinions on the platform, but the potential and the fact that it is the most complicated consumer level electronics device basically ever marketed, and it's really what most people don't understand is that it is a platform. It's a development platform, really. It's a publicly participated beta test, proof of concept for the technology platform, for the idea of spatial computing, for the idea of kind of bridging that gap between the digital and the reality and the real world. Whatever. You can definitely tell, I'm sure, that I am relatively passionate about this concept because, as I referenced before, even as a child, watching or reading reading Technomancer, like these types of things were not only science fiction, but they were fantasy. And anyway, Apple Vision Pro has the ability to basically interact with a Mac, with a modern Mac machine, and to display and to be the user interface to access some pretty significant computational power, both shared computation as well as centralized compute. And I like the products from Apple, for a lot of reasons, but mostly because they're really interested in the human-machine relationship. And a lot of, and that's one of their main market differentiators. If you want the thing to work, if you want to, you get the point. So they recently, Macintosh, Apple is not known for their gaming per se. There's nothing wrong with the platform. In fact, there's been the last 4 or 5 years especially, there's been the table has been set for that to change. And one of those ways is that they have ported over some AAA games to run natively on the Mac hardware, on the M series processing architecture. And part of that is on the fundamental design level of the hardware is this interaction of multiple machines, multiple types of interaction, multiple UX modalities, whether it's a cell phone or a Mac or a typical desktop. The evolution of that is spatial computing, and the AVP, the Apple Vision Pro, is an extension of that ecosystem, but it's more importantly, I think, going to be the way in which our experiences with these emerging technologies are going to have to be fashioned in the future. It really comes down to throughput, comes down to bandwidth. You can only type so fast. You can only talk so fast. We are visual creatures, and we are spatial creatures. And the reality of living in a world where, when I was born, that first kind of that entertainment interface of that Pong device, all the way to this work of art, in my opinion, which is the Apple Vision Pro. Living through that and being being intimately familiar with the arc that it was, as we as a species in a lot of ways, but as especially technology oriented professionals have gone through over the past 20 to 40 years. It's really difficult to encompass. It's really difficult to portray the awe, but also the perspective that I and people like me have with how the world has changed because of these technological changes. And so the Apple Vision Pro is really, in a lot of ways, that I'm not as interested in talking about comparing hardware, or especially manufacturers, the difference between other manufacturers' offerings. I don't really see that as particularly interesting. Fine, we can talk about it. We can talk about the difference in design philosophy and the difference in a lot of things, a lot of that go into, like the difference between Apple Vision Pro and Meta Quest, and like the ecosystems associated with those, and there are very fundamental philosophical, in some ways, reasons why these devices are the way that they are, why these platforms are the way that they are, why those company offerings are the way that they are, and those are all interesting topics to compare. What I'm really more talking about today is just reveling in the reality that I have lived through this story arc, through this arc of history. And in the last few days, that really has been a visceral experience to me with a game. I have, there's a native port of Cyberpunk 2077, which is a game, an interesting story in and of itself, the emergence of the game. But anyway, they have a native port that so you don't have to emulate. They did have a native port that will run on the M series Macintosh, and interfaced with the Apple Vision Pro. It's an amazing experience. It is the most immersive interaction that I've had from an entertainment and a storytelling standpoint. It's the most immersive and the most technically advanced experience for gaming that I've ever encountered. It's really makes me feel like some of the science fiction that I read as a child regarding augmented reality and virtual reality concepts. Like, we are not only on the cusp of it, but we are now, I personally am participating in the development of the UX over periods of time as I use this device and gain feedback and etc. The feedback right now on this interaction, like the formula that I was playing, where I had a controller from Sony that was attached to my Apple Mac M4, which was running a AAA game, which was being presented to me through the Apple Vision Pro with the most ridiculous resolution and the largest, most geometrically representative visual experience, and then the audio, the sourcing of the sounds, how the sounds are processed, where I myself as a human animal experienced those sounds and created those emotions in conjunction with the storytelling. Like, it was literally, and the interface and the stability and the kind of immersion, it was really amazing. It was really amazing. And I personally, I know how difficult what I was experiencing is. I know the lifetimes of, I know what goes into it. And it felt like hope to me, to be honest. Here I was running around this virtual world, maybe doing some nefarious things, maybe having these human emotions, maybe interacting with the storyline in a certain way. But the technology, for the first time in a long time, the technology kind of disappeared on me, and I was able to immerse myself in the experience that was presented to me. And it was a collaboration of the technology, of the development, of the developers, of the staff, of the gigantic corporation that was necessary to create such a device, create such an experience, create the ecosystem of devices through the protocols of Bluetooth and various other things that allowed me as a human to interact with this digitally created story world in a real visceral way. It was, in some ways, it's a culmination. Now, I'm a hardware guy, obviously. I don't do a lot of software. Most of my career has been dealing with interconnectivity and networks. Not endpoint devices, not software. I run like I tell my people, like as an example, I run the railroad. I don't care what's in the train cars. I sure as hell don't care what's in the boxes that you're moving most of the time. I'm more interested in making sure that the rails work, making sure the train gets there on time and it's reliable, blah, blah, blah. I'm a train conductor. I'm the network guy, well, most of my career. But it's a means to an end, right? And that end is the relationship between humans and technology, the emerging marriage or augmentation of what it means to be human and what it means to be augmented with intelligent devices, with these types of technologies that can look at us through the mirror. And I'm interested in these these experiences where it becomes very evident that my instincts feel right, where especially with the emerging ideas of AGI and various other techniques, machine self-awareness, a lot of this stuff, I feel like in reality technology is an emerging life form, and it's not exactly it's not independent. We humans are actually becoming a symbiotic organism. In a lot of ways, it's the way it's always been, but it's been really relevant in the lately. Most of us, many of us, cannot survive without technology anymore. We cannot operate without it. Some of us cannot literally live without it. They extend our lives, they extend our lifespan, etc. And so really technology, in my opinion, technology and humans are becoming a symbiotic organism. Two different species, as it were, that are basically merging to a mutually beneficial future. Now, that can be really scary, and in fact, if you're watching this, it probably is a little scary for you, because we're talking about fundamentally a tool that we humans have created, altering what it means to be a human. There's a lot of philosophical ramifications to that, especially in especially if you are, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of connotations. Anyway, point is that we are at a crossroads, and most of the folks that may be listening to this right now don't really understand the trajectory that technology has taken our species, but we're just getting started. We are just getting started. And the singularity has happened a long time ago. It's just that most people don't see any impact yet. They don't. They're still. It's very similar to politics, where everybody is worried about who's got what in their pants when they go to the bathroom. Like that is such a 19th, 20th century argument to be had. Like, I mean, let's put things into context, right? We can alter the human genome if we decide to. We have those powers. We need to have discussions about what it means to be a human. Who cares what gender? Like, obviously that is a vector, and it's very important to humanity, of course. Human sexuality is a vastly expansive and diverse topic that we need to explore with real objectivity and real science and real humanity and real compassion. And that's a tough one for humans to deal with, especially Western culture individuals, especially people like me. But that's not really the relationship I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is on a much more fundamental level, because as our technology, as our tools become more self-aware, as they create or become conscious in some ways, regardless of, I mean, we can debate endlessly on consciousness. That's actually one of my favorite topics, but whatever. The point is that at a bare minimum, technology is augmenting what it means to have human perception. And experiences like this game that the whole experience of how stable it was, how simple it was, how I didn't have to do all of those weird techie things to make it happen, how, like, from an ergonomic standpoint and from a UX standpoint, it was perfectly usable. And like, in the last year that this platform has been out, the participating in the beta testing, participating in feedback, and then seeing the results of that feedback from the development staff, from the offerings, the beta offerings that they then put out, that I am privileged, that I enjoy testing, and like the collaborative community effort to build a standard, a UX kind of a high watermark for these types of technologies as they emerge. The sky is kind of the limit. And it ties back into what I was saying earlier, where the concept, in my opinion, of privacy is we need to update what we mean by privacy, and we need to change our global culture to respect that civil right. I believe that humans it should be a civil right for a human to be able to control their information about themselves. What does that mean? Where do you draw the lines? How does that work with government? How does that work with law? How does that work with all of these other things? I don't know. The point is that we need to figure that out instead of like worrying about genitalia. Because really, at the end of the day, we have to, as a society, as a global society, we need to be spending our time on what does it actually mean to be a human, and can that definition expand based upon changes in the genome, based upon changes in our interaction, the augmentation that we are doing to ourselves with technology? Like, how do we draw those lines? That's the frontier of philosophy and religion and human experience that we need to spend our time on. Stop wasting your time on 20th century crap. Because sure, you may get a serotonin bump when you get that righteous indignation when somebody does something socially awkward that you don't like, and you may not understand, and so like you get that bump, and it feels good. It feels good to be righteously indignant, but stop living out of your grow up. Grow up. Nobody cares or should care within reason about some of these things. It's just manipulation is all it is. It's the manipulation of relatively ignorant individuals and their emotions for external purposes. That's probably a good working definition of religion, to be honest. Anyway, different topic. Alrighty, it's already 30 minutes in. I will see you later. I've got work to do today. I got a lot of ancient technology to keep running. Got to swallow my pride to get some of it working. But there you go. That's what I mean. This is the reality. So I hope you all have a good day, and just remember to take joy where you can. We'll be okay. It'll be all right. All right. Talk to you later.